The jungle civet reached the culvert mouth long after the forest had gone quiet. This was the hour when the jungle no longer rearranged itself. Cicadas had thinned into scattered calls. Leaves stopped shifting in response to falling temperature. Moisture had settled evenly, pressing scent closer to the ground. The civet preferred this moment. It moved low and deliberate along the edge of a dirt road that cut through the forest like a shallow scar. The road itself was quiet now, its surface holding the day's heat beneath a thin crust of cooling dust. Along one side, a drainage ditch dipped gently, guiding water during heavy rains. At one point, the ditch disappeared beneath the road, a concrete culvert. The mouth of the culvert was dark, round, and low, its edges softened by moss and mud. Vegetation grew thick around it, bending inward as if pulled by the absence beyond. From a distance, it looked empty. Up close, it held air differently. The civet approached and stopped just short of the opening. Its whiskers angled forward, nose lifted slightly, testing the space without entering it. Air from the culvert did not flow outward. That was wrong. Normally, even still tunnels breathed faintly, cool air sinking, warm air lifting, moisture drifting out in barely perceptible waves. Here, nothing moved. The air at the mouth was flat, held. The civet waited. Waiting mattered at thresholds like this. Time allowed air to finish what it was doing. If something was going to shift, it would do so after pressure equalized. Nothing changed. The civet stepped closer. The ground at the mouth was damp but firm, compacted by years of runoff and occasional maintenance. Its paw pressed in lightly, then withdrew. The surface responded immediately, honest. The air did not. The civet leaned its head toward the opening and paused again. Smell pooled at the threshold, rodent, damp stone, decaying leaves, but it did not travel. Odor stayed layered, compressed, refusing to rise or disperse. This was a trap of stillness. The civet did not enter. Instead, it positioned itself just to one side of the opening, body aligned parallel to the road rather than directly facing the tunnel. From here, it could monitor both the ditch and the forest edge while staying out of the stagnant air pocket. Inside the culvert, something moved. Not footsteps. A faint shift of debris. Grit settling. Water dripping somewhere deeper inside. The sound arrived muffled, flattened, robbed of direction. Still air-distorted sound. The civet froze completely. Predation depended on gradients. Sound moving, scent spreading, air carrying information outward. Still air collapsed those gradients inward. Everything inside the culvert arrived late and all at once. Minutes passed. Then a rat appeared. It emerged cautiously from the culvert, nose first, whiskers twitching, body low. It paused at the threshold, uncertain, testing the same flat air the civet had sensed. The rat hesitated. The civet did not move. Movement now would push air forward, alerting the prey. Instead, it waited for the rat to commit to the open ground, where air moved normally again. The rat stepped out fully. In that instant, the civet struck. The attack was fast and precise, cutting across the ditch rather than toward the culvert. The civet pinned the rat where grass met damp soil, killing quickly. The air moved then. Briefly. The sudden movement disturbed the stagnant pocket, releasing a slow outward drift of cool, damp air from the culvert mouth. Odor shifted, spread, then collapsed again as stillness returned. The civet dragged the prey away from the opening before feeding. While it ate, it watched the culvert. The air returned to stillness. The civet tested the space again after feeding, stepping closer to the mouth and pausing. The air remained flat, heavy, unmoving. The tunnel was acting like a sealed container, holding its internal climate in place. This was not natural. Concrete trapped temperature. The road above insulated the tunnel. Vegetation around the mouth reduced mixing. The culvert had become a pocket where air did not circulate properly at night. The civet understood the implication. Inside the culvert, scent and sound would not arrive in sequence. They would stack, compress, then release unpredictably when disturbed. Hunting inside would be inefficient and dangerous. Holding the mouth, however, was effective. The civet settled into position again, body angled, muscles relaxed but ready. It would not enter the stillness. It would let the stillness deliver prey outward. The lesson formed quietly. Not all cover was shelter. Not all openings invited passage. Some places stopped air so completely that they erased timing itself. And for a hunter that depended on timing more than force, spaces where air turned still were not paths to follow. They were edges to hold. The jungle civet remained beside the culvert mouth as the night deepened, using the absence of movement as a tool rather than a risk, waiting for the stillness to betray whatever trusted it enough to step out first. The jungle civet did not leave the culvert mouth after the first kill. It shifted positions slightly, moving no more than a body length away, choosing a patch of ground where roots broke the soil and insects moved less freely. From here, it could watch the opening without blocking it, allowing whatever lived inside to emerge on its own terms. Still air did not dissipate quickly. As the night deepened, the pocket at the culvert mouth grew more defined. Temperature difference sharpened. The air inside cooled faster than the air outside, but without flow, the boundary stayed sharp, like a skin stretched across the opening. The civet tested it again with its whiskers. Nothing moved. Even the faint humidity that normally drifted outward at night remained trapped. Moisture condensed on the concrete walls just inside the tunnel, darkening them, but did not escape. The civet waited. Waiting beside stillness required discipline. Movement would disrupt the boundary, causing scent and sound to behave briefly, then collapse again into confusion. The civet stayed motionless. Inside the culvert, activity continued. Small movements, rodents shifting, insects scraping, water dripping, stacked inside the tunnel. None of it travelled outward cleanly. Instead, it layered, compressing against the boundary where air stopped moving. Time stretched. Then another rat approached the mouth. This one moved more cautiously than the first. It paused deeper inside the tunnel, sensing something wrong. The stillness delayed information. Smell from the civet did not reach it clearly. Sound arrived flattened and late. The rat advanced in short bursts, stopping repeatedly. Each stop made things worse. Without airflow, each pause allowed scent to accumulate rather than disperse. The air inside the tunnel became heavier, thicker with layered signals that contradicted each other. Confusion increased. The civet remained still. Eventually, the rat reached the threshold and hesitated again. The open ground beyond the culvert offered moving air, clearer information, but also exposure. The rat committed. The civet struck again, using the same angled path as before, intercepting the prey where grass met the ditch rather than at the mouth itself. Again, movement disturbed the stillness. A slow exhale of air slipped out of the culvert, carrying damp odour and heat imbalance with it. The pocket weakened briefly, then reformed as soon as the civet withdrew. The civet dragged the second kill away and fed quickly. Afterward, it returned to its holding position. This pattern repeated. Stillness gathered. Movement released it briefly. Stillness returned. The culvert was becoming predictable. The civet noticed something else now. Insects avoided the mouth entirely. They gathered instead along the ditch walls a short distance away, where air moved weakly but consistently. Frogs shifted their positions too, avoiding the stagnant boundary. The culvert mouth had become a dead zone. The civet adjusted its posture slightly, positioning itself to cover the edge of that zone rather than the opening itself. Prey would cross that edge instinctively, moving from confused stillness toward clearer air. That crossing was the moment to act. The civet waited again. Hours passed. The air did not reset. Normally, subtle night breezes or temperature shifts would disturb stagnant pockets. Here, the road above acted as insulation, and the tunnel's length prevented exchange. The pocket held until something moved through it. The civet understood now. This was no temporary condition. The culvert had become a still-air structure. Hunting here would remain effective as long as the conditions held. but entering the culvert would always be a mistake. Inside, sound and scent arrived late and wrong. Outside, they behaved normally again. The civet tested the boundary one last time, stepping forward just enough to disturb the edge. The air moved slightly, releasing a wave of damp odour, then stopped again. The stillness was resilient. The civet stepped back. The lesson deepened. Still air did not just remove information. It delayed it, stacked it, then released it unpredictably. Holding the edge allowed control. Entering removed it. The jungle civet remained beside the culvert mouth until the night began to thin, using the stillness as a barrier rather than a hiding place. Because some structures did not conceal danger, they concentrated it, and in spaces where air refused to move, the safest position was never inside. It was just far enough away to let the stillness do the work first. The final change did not come from weather, it came from maintenance. The jungle civet sensed it before the sun went down. The road smelled different. Fresh dust pressed into older dust, the faint metallic note of tools, vegetation cut and dragged aside rather than torn. The ditch had been cleared earlier in the day. Not widened, not deepened, just cleaned. That was enough. By nightfall, the culvert mouth looked the same to the eye. The concrete ring was still dark, still mossed, still half hidden by grass, but the space around it had been simplified. Loose debris removed, edges smoothed, air pathways narrowed. The civet approached and stopped farther back than usual. The stillness was stronger. The boundary at the mouth felt thicker now, as if the air had weight. Whiskers brushed it and met resistance. Not physical, but informational. Nothing passed through. Smell stacked instantly. Sound flattened completely. The pocket had been reinforced. The road above acted like a lid. The cleared ditch acted like a funnel that guided air toward the culvert but did not let it pass through. The tunnel itself held temperature and moisture constant. The civet waited. Nothing changed. Earlier nights, small disturbances, shifting leaves, distant movement had occasionally weakened the pocket. Tonight, it held without effort. Inside the culvert, life continued. Rats moved, insects scraped, water dripped at long intervals. All of it stayed inside, layering without release. The civet could sense the pressure building, not pressure of air, but of information. The first animal to reach the mouth that night was not a rat, it was a frog. The frog approached slowly, drawn by moisture, stopping repeatedly as the air refused to give clear signals. Each pause made things worse. Odour from within stacked. The frog hesitated, then lunged forward into open ground. The civet struck immediately. The movement released the stillness again. A slow spill of cool, damp air that slid outward along the ditch and then collapsed. The boundary reformed almost instantly. The civet dragged the frog away and fed quickly. When it returned, the stillness was already complete again. This was new. Earlier, the pocket had needed time to rebuild after disturbance. Now, it reassembled itself without delay. The structure had crossed a threshold. Human clearing had removed small irregularities that once allowed minor air mixing. The culvert mouth was now cleaner, smoother, more sealed by vegetation trained to bend inward rather than break. Stillness was no longer fragile, it was structural. The civet adjusted its position accordingly, settling farther to the side where it could intercept animals as they exited the dead zone rather than reacting at the mouth itself. It learned to read the moment when prey decided to leave, not from sound or smell, but from hesitation. Hesitation was visible now. Animals lingered at the boundary longer than before, uncertain, turning their heads as if trying to locate something that would not arrive. The civet waited for that hesitation to peak. Then it moved. The culvert continued to deliver, but the civet also understood the risk. A structure that held stillness this effectively would never forgive entry. Inside, timing would collapse completely. Movement would release everything at once. Sound, scent, panic, without sequence. The civet tested the idea once, carefully. It stepped forward just enough for its head to enter the pocket. Instant confusion. Smell surged without direction. Sound arrived late and overlapping. The civet withdrew immediately, heart rate rising despite the lack of visible threat. That was enough. The lesson completed itself. This culvert was no longer part of the forest. It was a container, built, maintained, and sealed by human hands without intention to affect air, but doing so all the same. The civet would continue to hunt here while conditions held, but it would never cross the threshold, never enter, never trust the stillness to remain predictable if disturbed too deeply. Before dawn, the civet left the culvert and moved back into the forest edge where air moved, even if only faintly. There, information flowed in order again. There, mistakes could be corrected. From the tree line, it looked back. The culvert mouth lay dark and quiet beneath the road. No movement, no sound, no sign of danger. By daylight, it would look harmless. The lesson settled finally. Stillness created by nature was temporary. Stillness created by structure was permanent. And permanent stillness did not hide danger. It stored it. For a hunter that lived by reading time through air, the safest choice was not to enter places where time no longer moved at all. So the jungle civet left the culvert to its silence, carrying forward a rule that would shape every crossing from then on. When air stops moving for reasons you did not choose, do not follow it inside. Hold the edge. Let the stillness speak first.